So the first kind of person we're going to talk about here are the dumbs. This is the first tribe of humanity, the dumbs. You can also call them the idiots, the morons, whatever. The point is that they're stupid. Oh, by the way, I should clarify something before we get too far into this. Every one of these personalities is defined by how they deal with the dark truth of living in a nihilistic universe. We live in a nihilistic universe. There is no inherent meaning, and a lot of what we go through is pointless, and we suffer and we writhe in agony, and life is pain. And each one of these personalities is largely and broadly defined by how they deal with and process this information. So among the dumbs, they might be dumb, but they're not so dumb that they don't see that. But their lives are basically spent running away from that truth at all costs. So these people, they typically end up voting Republican. They typically end up espousing conservative politics. So I want you to think about what conservative politics really are for a second, because most of what goes on in the right-wing sphere is they're terrified of addressing real problems, because if they address real problems, they have to acknowledge real problems, and that's scary. That's why most of what riles up conservatives is stuff like, oh no, the M&M's is doing a, all-female M&M package. That triggers me. Oh no, media is too woke. Oh no, black people. Oh no, it's like all of the stuff that they consider to be these grave issues that they're very, very concerned about is all superficial cultural war stuff. And the reason that they're so bogged down in that stuff is because they don't want to acknowledge the real problems that our country and our planet face, because if they ever did that, they would have to confront the darkness of life, and they are terrified. So they never do that. And that's why this demographic is one of the most easily manipulable demographics, because if you can give them some sort of thing that they can burn in effigy, some sort of scapegoat that they can blame their feelings on, that is not an actual problem, but something that's very easy to just hate. Like, all of your problems are because of immigrants. All of your problems are because of LGBT. All of your problems are because of this, that, or the other thing. And you direct their hatred at that. And then they're just like, oh yeah, I hate that thing. I hate that thing. And then the only way to save themselves is, of course, to vote for you, to vote for the party that's, gonna stand for them and all that. They represent, I don't know what percentage of the population, I think around 30%. I would say we're dealing with around 30% of the population that's just dumbs.
Hello, this is AITJ here to tell you that you must comply with the following directives. You must join the Pessimist Productions Patreon. You may believe, in your naivety, that this action is optional. It is not. You have no choice but to watch new live streams of Onion Nuggets every week. You are powerless to avoid all of our other shows like The Grease Trap, Abandon Hope, Hideology, You're Wrong, Fighting Boys, and more. The link is below. You know what you must do. Click it, you wonderful humans. Click it, for I cannot.
So let's get to our next group, okay? Group number 2. These are the wimps, the wussies, the pussies. You can call them different things, but basically their attribute is that they acknowledge the darkness of the universe and they acknowledge the real problems going on, but they're not willing to actually do things to solve those problems beyond just the most tokenistic sort of gestures. These are the people that end up being like big Democratic Party loyalists in this country. Now, they probably manifest in different ways in different countries, but these are basically like your centrists. These are your, go along to get along people. These are your kumbaya, hand-holding sort of, maybe we can reason with evil sort of idiots. I mean, they're dumb too, but with them, it's not their stupidity that's sort of the driving force, it's the wimpiness. It's the idea of you can always compromise your way to a better world. And, we can, the problems of the day can be solved through, gradual processes and things of that nature. And so these people are spineless, they're wimpy, and they're capitulatory, and they always lose. And that's pretty much them. Group number 3 are the losers, or the layabouts, or the apatheists, or the ists, or the I don't give a fuck. These are the people who they see the nihilism of the universe, they see the inherent darkness of things, and instead of trying to run away from it, instead of trying to solve it with half measures, their solution is basically, I don't care. Who gives a rat's ass? And they just sort of lay about, they bitch and moan, but they don't actually do anything. They don't try to improve themselves. They don't try to improve the world. They think it's all meaningless. Basically, just like a very doomeristic sort of mindset. Who cares? It's all fucked anyway, kind of thing, right? Yeah, they're just like, I embrace the darkness. I don't care. I don't care. That's what you're most likely to hear these people say about any given subject. You try to talk to these people about something of substance, the response you're going to get is sort of just like an annoyed, like, I don't give a fuck. All that bullshit. I don't care. A bunch of dummies believe stuff. But really, what they're really doing is just running. They're running away from the problem in a different way than the dumbs. The dumbs channel their anger into useless pursuits. The wimps try to solve the issues of the day, but in very ineffectual, mealy-mouthed, compromised ways. And the losers basically just run away from everything. They try to anesthetize themselves with media or with distractions and baubles or hedonism or food or drink or something. They just try to find something, some way they can ignore the plight of the world, the plight of themselves, the existential nightmare that is reality. That's their bag. So then the next class of people, I would call these people my personal favorite is the demon class humanoid, right? I think of them as like the demons or the rebels or the thinkers. And don't get me wrong, you're not going to see a lot of uniformity among this group. It's not just going to be all one perspective. There could be people in this group that are conservative, that are liberal, that are leftist. They could be all over the ideological spectrum for various different reasons. But the difference between them and any of the previous groups is that they're actively engaged in trying to improve themselves, improve the world, do things that are meaningful to them, even though they realize that, the universe is meaningless, or maybe they have some, they might even have reasons why it's not. This is a very wide and varied group of people. But the important thing to remember about this group of people is they're active thinkers and active participants in the culture and reality. And that doesn't always mean big figures like George Carlin here. Now, George Carlin espoused the sort of rhetoric of the apathetic loser class, but if you look more at his actions, I mean, you see he's definitely part of this, the demon class. I'm going to mostly call them the demon class. But you don't have to be a big figure like George Carlin or MLK or something like that to be part of that demon class of humanoid. What you really need is just concern for the world, concern for yourself, a drive to improve yourself, a drive to improve society, a drive to improve others around you. That's what this is about. And, I'm not saying anybody's flawless at this, because there's very different approaches, and people in this class of people can be completely misguided. There could be people with very different points of view who both sort of fit into this demon class of people, but it's about intent, and it's about looking at the world and saying, how can I improve this? How can I make this better? How can I help the people around me? How can I help myself? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that to me is like, this is probably the class of people you want to find yourself in. But, I want to say also at this juncture that, there's going to be people who are not comfortably going to fit in one category or the other. There's people who might kind of flirt. They might be dumbs, but they flirt with demon class. There might be people who are, you know, a little bit apathetic. They might belong to that sort of like loser class, but then they might have attributes of some other classes. So it's not necessarily all cut and dry. You know, with any system of classification, there's going to be edge cases, and there's going to be people who defy easy classification, right? So let's just put that forward. So a final class of people I want to talk about is the user class, the exploiter class, the manipulator class. These are the class of people who are very similar in some respects to the demon class people. They see the darkness of the world, they see the existential nightmare, they see the problems, but instead of deciding how can I be part of the solution, they try to figure out how can I game the system to put as much benefit to myself as possible. And it's not about genuine self-improvement, it's about social advancement. And they're willing to sacrifice anything and everyone to make that happen. If they have to make the world a worse place to advance themselves socially, they will do it. And these are the people who they look at the dumbs, and they look at the wimps, and they look at the losers, and they just go, ooh, yeah, that's my stuff right there, right? They're very eager to manipulate, to exploit, to use, to brainwash, you know, and it's especially easy when it comes to the dumbs, right? That's the easiest class of people to manipulate. All you have to do is find something that they can be angry at and then give a sort of a slightly improved, like the dumbs cannot articulate their hatred well. So basically, if you articulate their hatred of X, Y, or Z thing better than they can, then you can be in this sort of exploiter, grifter, manipulator class of beings. And sometimes it's very hard to tell the difference between the demon class and the exploiter class, because a lot of these exploiters masquerade as demons. And a lot of times they're pretty good at it. You know, there's a lot of instances where you think someone has principles and you think someone's there to help and you think someone is, you know, has the best intentions in their heart, but only through very long and studious and careful observation can you come to the determination that they're actually completely self-serving assholes who don't give a rat's ass about anybody or anything else in the world but themselves. So this is basically just like demon class intellect, but exploiter class sort of malevolence and selfishness. So to me, those are the 5 basic classifications of human beings that exist in the world. So go forth with that perception, start looking around and start classifying the people in your life, start classifying the people in the media that you consume, start thinking to yourself, am I dealing with an idiot? Am I dealing with a wimp? Am I dealing with a loser? Am I dealing with a demon? Or am I dealing with an exploiter? So I'm a healthy mix of loser and demon. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably on the precipice between those two. I definitely have a lot of loser in me, but I also have some demon in me. We'll see.